It is true that China's assessed contributions have risen to the second highest rate, 15%, compared to the U.S. rate of 22%, yet China lags far behind the United States in funding to the UN. In 2022, for example, the U.S. contributed approximately $18 billion to the UN system, more than 8 times the amount that China contributed. The U.S. paid 90 times more than China in voluntary contributions to the UN in 2022. China's voluntary contributions were only $164 million. Even though China's financial contributions to the UN remain comparatively small, the CCP has become adept at manipulating the UN system for its own advantage. The CCP blatantly uses its position on the UN Human Rights Council to shield itself from criticism and to avoid accountability for its horrific human rights abuses. I was appalled when former High Commissioner for Human Rights Michelle Bachelet caved to CCP demands to water down her report on Xinjiang. Instead of rightly declaring these atrocities a genocide, she pulled punches and delayed the release of the report literally until the 11th hour, publishing the document minutes before her term expired. And when the United States proposed a resolution to merely debate the ongoing genocide in Xinjiang, it was voted down at the Human Rights Council because the CCP lobbied effectively against it. In a February hearing of the Congressional Executive Commission on China, which I chaired, Dr. Rana Xiao-In-Boden of the University of Texas at Austin testified that, and I quote, China's actions over the last decade show that the PRC has become intent on using its presence in the UN to alter international human rights norms and rewire the system in ways that will make it easier for states to escape scrutiny of their human rights records, close quote. This includes manipulating the Universal Periodic Review process, which they did very effectively, sadly, where the CCP pressured developing countries and fellow authoritarian regimes to speak in its favor and to help obscure its abysmal human rights record. They crowded out comments by other nations by filling up the roster with people who were just paying lip service and kowtowing to China. As I said at the hearing just in February, the truth is that Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party constitute a systemic challenge to the international rules-based order and reject the very concept of universal human rights. The obstruction of truth during the latest UPR is just another example of the CCP's long and brutal campaign to silence its critics. As we've heard from previous witnesses, Hillel Noor of UN Watch, for example, staff at the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights were pressured to share names of dissidents, including Uyghurs, who planned to come to the United Human Rights Council. And they did share these names routinely with the CCP, who then used the information to intimidate these human rights activists as well as their families. It is despicable that even when this was exposed by courageous whistleblowers, including Emma Riley, she was punished by the UN for revealing the truth.